Looking for a cosmic adventure like no other? Zatswan, Multiversal Guardian is a high-stakes comic book journey through the multiverse with stunning art and an unforgettable hero. Get your copy today in ebook and paperback formats. Link in the description.
Hi everybody, this is Neil Allen, the creator of Zatswan Multiversal Guardian, which is a 130-page cosmic fantasy graphic novel that you can purchase using the link below in the description for only $2.99 for the digital ebook version and free with Kindle Unlimited, and there's even a print version if you prefer to read that way. So check that out and leave me reviews if you pick up the book. We are working on more Zatswan comics right here, and we're going to work on inking in this panel here. Now while I do that, I think I'm just going to do some random musings, see what comes out of this ramble. So what I'm thinking about right now, I'm going to go back to Green Lantern again while I get in this Alakazona. We're going to use my big size 4 Kolinsky Sable brush to do that. We got a big Alakazona up front. So let's get some nice bolt lines in here with her. So I've heard some things recently that I feel like commenting on about the character John Stewart, who I talk about often enough. So the first thing I want to address is that the character doesn't have much of anything of his own. This is a common thing that you'll hear from detractors of the character. Like, he doesn't have anything to offer, and he just steals stuff from other characters. And I kind of want to give, my view, my take on that point of view. Now, first of all, I do think that he does have stuff of his own. Now, let's see. We are gonna... Okay, I already have all this ink on the brush, so I am going to... Okay, we'll just go ahead and start here. I have more room in this panel than I anticipated, actually, is the thing, so that's it. I was thinking about coming in and penciling some stuff in with pencil, but we'll just go straight into the ink. So I have all this space over here. Let's cut that off like that. So what do I think about John not having his own stuff? First of all, I will say that's not, true. And, the second thing I would like to say about that is that even though that isn't true, I do think he could use more of his own stuff. And why doesn't he have more of his own stuff? It's because the comic creators, or editorial, whoever's behind the scenes, hasn't thought to spotlight him as much as some other characters. That doesn't mean he's a lesser character by any means at all. It just means that they have not thought to do that. So considering that, I do think that John, needs more solo features, things that actually have him at the center of it, where he's the star. And, DC has actually been doing better with this somewhat in recent years. He got the Jeffrey Thorne Green Lantern run in 2022 or something like that. And he also got Green Lantern Beware My Power, the direct-to-video film. Okay, so let's come in here with another line here. This is what I was thinking about penciling in, but we'll just go straight into inks here. Let's put a line there. Okay, so he got the direct-to-video film as well that had him as the star. He also got Green Lantern War Journal by Philip Kennedy Johnson. So these things like definitely have John Stewart as the lead character. So DC has been doing better with that in recent years. He had a long drought during the Jeff Johns run. Like they didn't want to give him too much focus during that. I've talked a lot about that. Personally, I do believe that was intentional. But okay, then you're gonna have like a thing that holds this hair together here. And let's curve that around here. Just making sure I could get this stroke good. There we go. But that's the reason why that may be the case. Now, to say he doesn't have much of his own, he does. It's just that the writers would need to, capitalize on it, and many times, for whatever their reasons, they do not. There are a lot of things you could draw on from his time as a Dark Star. Like, I know the history of the character very well, so this wouldn't be a problem for me, but a lot of writers, they're not going to put in that type of effort, do that type of research. Like, we all know that. Start here and get in the swirl. Uh-oh. Got a bit of a double line there. The point on our brush isn't good enough. Don't want that happening. Let's get it pointier. See if we have enough ink in it still. Yeah, I think it's lightening up some. Let's get some more ink. There's stuff they could draw on. His rivalry with Darkseid Son Graven, who broke his back, for example, like, is something I would use. But, nobody wants to want to do that. We saw that happen when John was a Dark Star during the Ron Mars run in Green Lantern in the 90s. So yeah, there's like stuff there that people could use. There's a good villain that, if one was so inclined, could be an exclusive John Stewart villain. But again, they don't often draw on this stuff. Like, why? I mean, I can't tell you all the reasons why. I don't know. I'm not in their head. But I assume it's just because they don't know it. They just know like some bullet points you could find on a wiki or stuff that for some reason people don't want to let go of, like that Xanchi that destroyed that planet that you can argue that he failed to save. I guess that's the best way of putting it. Technically, John Stewart didn't destroy a planet. He just, in his hubris, as the story goes, failed to save it. You know what's really interesting? Out of all these crises and things that happen, that is actually a thing that has like lingered in continuity and stuck around. I guess if you got rid of it entirely, you would have to get rid of the character Fatality, which, speaking of Fatality, is another John Stewart-centric character. I think Fatality's pretty cool. I did not like her as a Star Sapphire. That was Jeff Johns stuff. I didn't like that just because it was Jeff Johns stuff. It's just that I'm just not likely to like Jeff Johns stuff. It seems. I'm just not. He just doesn't agree with me for whatever reason. I like Fatality in her original form, though, which is what she's like in right now. She's interestingly appearing in the Green Lantern Corps comics that are going on right now, which is interesting. Haven't seen her in like a long time. Now let's see. There's also the character Miraine Tithalis. There's Rose Harden in the Mosaic, but again, people for various reasons don't want to touch this type of stuff. I remember I said something in I was making a video not that long ago about black characters, and I was talking about how they sometimes just run into like really bad luck. Well, it turns out that one of the writers that was most prolific and known for writing John Stewart ended up being a convicted felon, you know, for very heinous crimes. So that's just bad luck. So all that like mosaic history is likely not to be referenced, likely not to be touched. And I don't know how I feel about that. I think I may have like mentioned this in some videos like long ago. Because the thing, we're talking about Gerard Jones as the writer here. The way I see it is Gerard Jones is not the only one who worked on those comics. You know, there was M.D. Bright, and other people, Andy Helfer, the editor. I think it's a shame. And they were also, regardless, they were very important for John Stewart. But that said, yeah, it's interesting about how, you know, John Stewart did run into that bad luck. Like, there are cool characters like Rose and cool things that could continue to be explored. Like, I'm not saying you got to redo Mosaic, but you can borrow concepts that appeared there. You know, it can be referenced, but it never is, and likely it never will be, regardless of whatever arguments you can make about, well, you know, other people worked on the book and things like that. I think the reality is just that DC is not gonna like take any chances with that. You know, they're not gonna want any affiliation of any kind with Gerard Jones, which is unfortunate for the other people who did work on the Mosaic books, like M.D. Bright and Cully Hamner and all those other people. Now, there are different arguments you can make, though, like, well, if the John Stewart stuff was good enough, it would be referenced. That would kind of be a testament to it being like loved and good, kind of like how Jeff Johns is constantly referenced. You know, he kind of shaped modern Green Lantern and was so influential, people can't seem to get away from, you know, referencing his work and bringing it into any discussion of Green Lantern. You know, yeah, that's fair enough. This is the way I kind of see it, though, I guess, as a creative person. Even if some of the stuff wasn't like the most brilliant story, I see personally enough of a skeleton there that you can build upon that and make it brilliant. You can make it cool. You can make it really good. Like Graven, you can make a lot out of him if, you know, you yourself are creative enough to build off of that. And that's what I would do. Like, if I was writing John Stewart, I'm well versed on the history, so I would just build upon stuff that's already there and make more out of it than what was. Okay. We're getting somewhere with Alakazona here, the back of her head. Let's add these lines here, and then we'll come in with a dip pen, I think, after the brush. I like getting my big main lines in with brushes often. And then come in and do like hatching and detail and stuff with other types of pens. But what I will say is, yes, that stuff is there. John does have stuff of his own. Whether writers want to capitalize on that is another issue. And then what about that criticism of him taking other people's stuff? Like, you take Hawkman's wife. You know, I'm not going to be up in here trying to catch people in like you know, like try to catch them. But there is something kind of interesting about that quote, which I have heard that specifically, by the way. Like, he takes Hawkman's wife, he takes Kyle Rayner's origin, he takes, like in Green Lantern, Beware My Power, for example. So about, quote unquote, taking Hawkman's wife. So it turns out that Shiera Thal is her own character. She's not just Hawkman's wife, especially after her feature on the Justice League cartoon show, where she outshined Hawkman quite a bit. So to look at her like she's just, oh, John Stewart took something, he took Hawkman's wife, she is her own character. John Stewart did not, I mean, this sounds kind of funny. I know we're talking about characters that have writers and stuff, but John Stewart did not force her into anything. Let's stay with this brush. I'm kind of wondering if I want to get in these ringlets with this brush or switch to like a quill feather. Let's stick with the brush here and get them. So I know that I don't want to use the word problematic just to look at her like that. Like, she's just a possession of Hawkman's. But at the same time, isn't that kind of how these people are viewing her? Like, oh, she's there just to benefit Hawkman. And honestly, maybe initially, like back in the 60s when she was created, but especially after Justice League, she's grown out of that role. And no, she is also not there just to benefit John Stewart. I think that Shiera is a really awesome and really interesting character in her own right. And that's just kind of the way I view her personally. Not just, oh, Hawkman's wife or, oh, John Stewart's girlfriend. She's like her own character, you know? Another thing that I saw is that don't put John Stewart and Hawkgirl together, because linking John Stewart with another franchise kind of muddles him. Like, it makes him less independent or something like that. So it's bad for John Stewart. He shouldn't have, like, he shouldn't be getting too involved with the Hawks, because the Hawks are the Hawks. What do I think about this? Hello? Why is that, like, okay for Green Arrow and Black Canary, but, like, problematic for John Stewart? Did the relationship of Green Arrow and Black Canary hurt either character? I mean, I don't see people saying that. I honestly don't see people saying that. I'm trying to think how it may have. I've never saw that myself. I'm trying to think back on if I've seen, readers like complain about it. Insignificantly enough, and I can't really think of that. I don't really think it does that. I think that if you have a shared universe, then you may as well make use of that shared universe. And I think that's just kind of like a self-imposed limitation that some people place. Like, oh, John Stewart's from Green Lantern, Shiera's from Hawkman. Those are two different things. You can't mix the two. Okay, so I'll be completely fair, though. There are instances of things like that. Just going through history, being problematic, what comes to mind is, or causing a problem. What comes to mind is Kyle Rayner's relationship with Donna Troy in the 90s. Like, Ron Mars had to break that up, the writer of Green Lantern, because Wonder Woman office wanted, like, their character back. They wanted to do something with Donna, and it's like, hey, give her back. That said, Wonder Woman office. Do you honestly think there's a Hawkman office? I highly doubt that. For the most part, comics wise, if Shire is not with John Stewart, she's probably going to be just not doing anything. Off in limbo. Which I know some people would rather see that than have her with John Stewart, and that's fair enough. Okay, let's dip the brush because I'm going to want some thicker lines here. This brush holds quite a bit of ink, so you don't have to dip that often. You have to dip more with dip pens. Okay, so this is her shoulder, and it's going to be like, I think I'll get that in with the, well, there's a, okay, yeah, I'll get that in with the dip pen. I do want to get her shoulder in here, though. It's her neck. Yeah, if Shire is not with John Stewart, I think there's a good chance he just won't be doing anything. And I think that's like a self-imposed. I think it's mostly a self-imposed like limitation. Like, can that come up? It depends on what you want to prioritize. Like, if DC editorial in general actually wants to go ahead with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, then they could just veto whatever like potential like issue, or they could push whatever potential issue into the favor of doing Green Lantern and Hawkgirl if they so choose. There's nothing like stopping them. There would be nothing stopping them from doing that I could see. I want to look at my sketch. What exactly is going on with this line in here? I probably shouldn't ink it in. Let's continue up here. So she has a crown. Not going to get that in with the brush. But my take on it is, if you have a shared universe, you may as well share your universe. You may as well make use of it. Now, that said, this opens up another interesting related topic. When can a shared universe be like detrimental, for your comics? I think that's kind of an interesting discussion. Like, has the shared universe like done more harm perhaps in some respects? Or has it done harm? Yeah, I think so. That said, even though it has been, done harm in some ways, like, I'm mainly thinking of these like endless events. That's probably like the you could actually use that. I'm thinking of these endless events. That's probably the biggest manifestation of clear harm. Sometimes the universe just takes precedence too much over the characters. So you're really reading the story of a universe, sometimes more than you are reading a story of Superman or the characters, you know what I mean? In that sense, I think that sometimes a shared universe can do harm, but it doesn't necessarily always have to every kind of all the time. And my view is that, let's clean this brush a little bit, work on the point, and do another dip. My view is that, yeah, if you're going to have a shared universe, I understand not getting carried away with it, but you should actually make use of that shared universe and have the characters interact in interesting ways in it. And Green Lantern and Hawkgirl is like a great way to do that. And the thing about Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, I wouldn't be so like going into it as much if people didn't like it. But the thing is, like, a lot of people do. Okay, let's be careful here. Alright. Get an Alika's nose. And we really do want to be careful with these lines here, especially since we're using such a thick brush. But if our technique is good enough, then we should be able to get nice thin lines from the brush. Being able to control a brush well is like is an art. It's a very good inking tool, but it's probably like the hardest. Okay. Doing well so far to get in his face, and we don't want to mess up Alika's face. Some of the penciling here is a little confusing. I'm going to look at my sketch real quick. Let me pull that up. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry if you didn't see some of that inking I was doing on the face. So we're going to go down and down and out. Okay, got a little bit thicker, a thicker line than I wanted in one spot, but that's nothing we can't rectify. Okay, now let's get this chin in. Okay, and this is going to go, we want it to go like that. Okay, and then we'll connect this. So this is some pretty fine work we're doing here, and it actually has not gone exactly the way that I wanted it to. That's okay, but it hasn't gone bad. Okay, so what we want to do here, you know what, I'm going to play it safe and use isograph to clean that up. So technical drawing pen. But about the topic. So we're going to want to bold this line out somewhat. Hold on, let me get this pen flowing. Okay. Okay, now we're going to want an even smaller isograph just to clean up some of these lines. But I guess getting back to the topic, I don't think that it has to do that. I think that, you know, I see the reasoning behind it. You know, some people, I think, want John Stewart to kind of be more independent and, you know, have just more standalone stuff that's not dependent on any other character or links to any other character. And I do understand that. Okay, let's go down and... Okay, I think that actually works. Now we're going to want to give her eyelashes, and I'm going to clean my brush because I don't want ink to sit in it too much while I'm not using it. And about the muddling harming Hawkman thing, again, only if you write it that way. First of all, there are like 3 Hawkgirls. There's a Shira, a Shiera, and a Kendra. It's like, okay, I think a lot of Hawk fans do not like the idea of Hawkman being with Kendra. Okay. Well, fortunately, there's She-Ra. So, the thing about it, like, with all of this going on, I don't see how it would have to hurt him. There are so many ways to get around that. So many, so many. It would only do that if you choose to. I made another video about this, I think. I think it would only, like, really harm Hawkman if you actually chose to look at it from that angle and play up that angle, but I don't really think you have to. Like, if John Stewart's with She-Ra, you don't want Hawkman with Kendra, you can put him with his original love interest, which is She-Ra. The Golden Age Hawkgirl, that is. Okay, so let's give her some eyelashes. And then we'll have the very thin pen. I don't think we're going to want one this thin. But we'll start out with one this thin just to get in where our lines will be. Okay, so let's get a thicker one. But I do think there are definitely times when the shared universe, like, becomes detrimental. But I don't think it, again, like, it depends on how you use it. I don't think it has to be detrimental. I think this over-reliance on universe events doesn't appeal to me as much as, like, say, like a good Superman story, for example. Okay. Alright, so we got in, I think, these main lines on out the back of Alika's head here. Let's carry this all the way up. I want to clean this up a little bit. Okay, there, not bad. I want to come in with a dip pen and get some of these other lines in here too. Let me get that prepared. Okay, so I actually did add in some pencil marks to give me some guidelines to make things a little clearer. I think I'm going to use actually my quill feather here. I was thinking of using a dip pen because I want to use the quill because it could give me some thicker lines. So I'm going to use that. So, but to speak about the muddling of John Stewart by tying him to the Hawks, potentially yes, it could. But it could also, I think we also have to look at the fact that it could also be a very good feature for him. It's given him his most emotional through line he's ever had as a character, I would say. No other character has, not even Kat Matui. These lines are pretty thick. They're nearly as thick as the brush. That's fine. Not even Kat Matui has given John that much good emotional storytelling. Convincing. He's never had a relationship that was as compelling or convincing to me as Hawkgirl. Do you know why people, I think, want to go back to that? Well, first and foremost, it just being very good is probably the biggest reason. This is maybe a little thicker than I wanted. We might come in with the dip pen, which can give me thinner lines. I don't think I see anything here. This is actually Alika's hand down here, so this is a thumb or a finger. Maybe I'll give her that. that, and then it bends here, so. Okay. I think we're done. This is a little too thick for the lines that I want, so let's put the quill away. Yeah, so not only is it really good, but honestly, I've read a lot of and seen a lot of John Stewart stuff, and he was at his best. He was just simply at his best when he was with her, in my opinion. Like, he had the best, most emotional storytelling. It was convincing and it was good. Now, about the muddling thing, it really doesn't have to, because I think there's a lot of common ground the characters have. They're both like soldiers. They both have themes of duty, guilt, redemption. They actually do when you think about it. Okay. Now let's get in. These are some of the lines I want to get in the hair. And but about that, I'll be fair. Some people will argue that, well, you need to realize they're not the same characters. John Stewart in or Hawkgirl in JLU and Justice League is not the Hawkgirl in mainline typical DC continuity. I think that is somewhat true, but somewhat not. The truth is that, yeah, technically it's a different universe, and the characters they don't have all the exact same history that they had from their times in the cartoons. But still, Shiera Hall, or Shiera Thal if you prefer, is still Shiera Thal, and John Stewart is still John Stewart. You know what I mean? So, you could say that about any of the characters on the show. Like, if that's the case, Batman's not really Batman. Superman's not really Superman. And there's plenty of stuff to build on there, too, and to borrow from the show. I'm not saying you have to do a complete one-to-one retread. I don't think anybody would like to see that. But I do think there are a lot of fans who would like to see elements, from the show brought in. But going back to like similar themes and stuff, so yeah, she's an alien, an alien from Thanagar, so it really is not hard if you were so inclined. And Beware My Power showed this, I think, successfully enough. It really is not hard to have the two cross paths. They both have intersections of they both meet at an intersection of alien war stuff and connections on Earth. So it's simple, and like, honestly, they go together pretty well. Like, if you wanted to have a cosmic book, if you just wanted them to be in space all like for the majority of everything, you literally could write that in really easily. It would fit both characters well. If you wanted them to go on Earth or go from Earth to space, it still fits both characters really well. Now, that would be weird for many other characters in DC, but it's not really weird. But even then, you could still make it work if you were so inclined and creative enough. But it doesn't seem like it requires a lot of work to get, Shiera to work well with John in the comics, because they both share a lot of, it's easier to bring them together. Just like Beware My Power did. You want to have alien space war stuff, easy to involve both of them in that. That's like a easy way to get her involved. So I guess I'm saying my thing is that one of the things I'm thinking of is, yes, it could potentially muddle things, I guess, if done poorly, but it could also potentially give John and Shiera both, because I think both of their most like notable, epic, emotional stories. Cue somebody coming in telling me about some Robert Venditti Hawkman run. were done when they were together. And no other character, I think, has brought that same thing out in them, or even something like it. Now, you might argue that characters bring different things out, but that aren't that, but that are other stuff. But yeah, none of them have really brought what the other has to the other character, if that makes sense. Here's a hair jewelry. Let's get this star in, and it's very popular, even to this day. Like Green Lantern, Hawkgirl ship. It's not something you're just gonna get rid of, as much as I'm sure some people would love to. And another thing that I brought out too, I think it's like a good idea to, because it's a good idea to try. At the very least, it's a good idea to try, because they spent all this time not doing it. So why don't take a swing at doing that? That's my reasoning. Could it potentially harm? I don't see like it could. Not really. I mean, worst case scenario, it doesn't seem like they'd be in any worse spots than they are now. Best case scenario, it could elevate both of them significantly. At least that's the way I see it. Okay. Now let's get in more of Aleka's hair texture here. I think we're just going to get her in. We won't do AC Cooper on this ramble. We'll just do Aleka. Okay, and we're using a dip pen now. Start it with a brush. Switch to dip pen. Which, you know, none of these tools are like the same. The technical drawing pen, the brush, I can tell you just from using them as often as I use them, they do not yield the same type of line. They're like totally different. And with me, I don't know about like most people, but with me, I can definitely tell what made what line easily, you know. Like the lines that I get with the dip pen are nothing like the lines I get with a technical drawing pen, which are nothing like the lines I get with the brush. And fortunately for me, like, I love them all. They all bring something different and very, very useful and unique to the table. So if I was to do that, the Green Lantern Hawkgirl thing, I would probably just stick to, for Shayera, just the alien Thanagar stuff. What can be muddling is getting John... Whoa, there, that like getting John mixed up in some of that confusing Hawk lore. So the past life stuff, honestly, Justice League did it pretty good, I thought. As good as I could think it being done. I don't know, I guess if you do it like that, you could kind of include John Stewart in the past life stuff. It doesn't have to be bad, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't like the angle I'm at. It doesn't have to be bad. But just like with most things, if handled poorly, then yes, there's the potential for it to be bad. But then, push comes to shove, I don't think they would be in a worse spot than they were in prior. Okay. Let's continue to get some of these lines in. Adding detail to... There's some good lines in here. I don't want to mess up getting them in. So let's get our angle down. Okay. Yeah, not bad. I would say, yeah, like the important thing about it is it's the best, most memorable arc either of them have had. Uh, so that's why people want to see it again. It was good and probably the best those characters have been. At least a lot of people feel that way. You know, offers a lot of stuff. It did in Justice League, like the duty, the betrayal, the shared family. You know, there's a lot of stuff there. Comics, you know, there's a gold mine there to mine if comics were so inclined, but they've been, I would say, more preoccupied thus far with not really appealing to the people who would want to see that. And I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like you've been running away from that so long. And like what has it got you? Like has it helped John Stewart to run away from that? Has it helped Shire to run away from that? I don't necessarily particularly think so. So it's worth a try to I was getting this with a brush, like in here. I can try getting it with a dip pen. No, I wouldn't say it's helped them. Not necessarily. These lines definitely look different than the ones I was getting with the brush. And I might come in here. Might come in with a technical drawing pen. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Okay, let's go down here. And she does have a crown that I have to ink in as well. But, you know, we might, like, cut this ramble off. I think, you know, you've kind of seen how this goes, what, like, his hair is going to look like. So, I'm just going to finish this up. I can do that off camera. But, yeah, I think I've, this is her back. This is actually her shoulder here. So, let's get this in. Okay. And it's like her deltoid, and this is her shoulder up here. And this is actually her hand. We've already gotten some of that in. And I guess we can get in this here. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me. I think I'm just going to take out a technical drawing pen and get these lines in, but while I have some ink on the nib, I'll continue to get in some lines with the hair. Let me know your thoughts about this topic. Do you think that the doing John and Hawkgirl somehow muddles John Stewart and will be detrimental to him, or do you think it would just help? I think it would just help. It would be, if for nothing else, it'd be very interesting to see because we've already seen what things look like without it. And to me, at this stage, this is just my opinion, though I don't think it's a crazy one. John Stewart is still kind of a shadow of his DC animated universe self. He's not as deep. His emotional through line is not as strong. So, and I would like the character to kind of live up to that potential that I know he has, that I know we've all seen him, and I know he doesn't totally need to rely on another character to do that. But that is a path to, you know, getting the John Stewart we know he can be unlocked in the comics. It's worked before, it could work again. So the thing is, it's already a proven thing that works and has a built-in audience that a lot of people, you know, would like to see. But let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. Thanks for hanging out while I was inking in this figure here. We got quite a bit of work done on her. Still need a couple little things to do. I'll get him in another video or either off camera. But yeah, let me know what you think of this topic. Be sure to check out Zatswan in the link in the description and leave reviews. Be sure to comment and subscribe. And I will talk to all of you again very soon. Take care.